Sector 4 needs reinforcements. We are being overrun. Repeat, we are...
Yup, that was raw footage of me when I'm playing LEGO Star Wars 3, The Clone Wars. You may ask why I would even want to touch this game when I have a little game called The Complete Saga. The simple answer? Obi-Wan kissing Twilight.
The way that Gucci look on you, amazing.
Our journey to victory has begun! Death to the MPLA!
The simple answer? Clones. Sliding clones, rocket clones, clones with Fortnite miniguns, and clones falling out of Republic gunships in 4K 60 FPS slow motion.
You know what? Alright, let me just use my real voice. With Cartoon Network's Star Wars The Clone Wars finally getting a Season 7, the Clanker vs. Clone Boy war is fresh in people's minds, and so it's only suitable to play through the game again. Besides the clones, the other cool thing in this game is the amount of studs, which have noticeably increased relative to the Complete Saga. If I had a V-Buck for every 100 studs, I would never have to use my mom's credit card again. But what if you wanted to actually blow your mom's bank account and beat the game without collecting any of the studs? Could it be possible for an ordinary gamer like me? I will tell you now, it is pretty much impossible to finish the game with 0 studs, considering you have a collection radius the size of 2 LEGO City helicopters, but there are a lot you can skip if you have special skills and powers. I got this idea from a channel called Sovereign Gaming, so if you thought this was cool, you can check out his channel in the description. First, some rules. I decided to allow the use of the invincibility power brick. Some may say this is cheating, but I argue that dying or fighting enemies has nothing to do with collecting studs, considering they don't drop any. In fact, it actually helps get a more accurate grand total of how many studs I did collect, since I can't lose any by dying. When it comes to completing the game, I only mean the prologue and the 18 story missions, not the epilogue. I'll explain why in a little bit. So without further ado, let's dive into the gameplay. At the beginning of the first level, you are given control of Obi-Wan and prompted to use the Force to make a staircase out of your pillar. There is a highly annoying line of studs on the staircase that is impossible to avoid, but you can skip over one using double jump. This line of studs is also impossible for Padme to avoid. Once you get everyone off the pillars, there are large clumps of studs on the ground, so make sure to avoid those while charging at the Nexu. I had to restart twice because of this. If you want to play it safe, wait until the Nexu is close to a wall, and then continuously ram it into the wall so it can't run around. During the Jango Fett battle and getting the Jedi onto the gunships, be aware that the studs scattered around the pillars at the start are still there, so keep your distance. As you can see, despite these efforts, we still collected enough studs to buy 100k of RuneScape gold. Before I talk about the next level, I need to mention the Republic Cruiser Bridge you get placed in that acts as a hub, similar to the Cantina in the Complete Saga. To access the level select, you have to stand on this plate, but there are always 5 studs sitting on it waiting to be collected. Unfortunately, you are taken back to the hub at the end of each level, so you can't just press continue story like in the Complete Saga. Luckily, you can step on the plate while only collecting 4 studs each time, but that still adds up to 72 unskippable studs, which is 2,340 worth of studs total. In the hidden enemy, this door will spray out studs pretty far, so make sure to avoid that. This next part is an absolute cesspool of studs and droids, a perfect example of why I decided to allow invincibility. Once you build this cannon, there's an unskippable blue stud when you jump into it. These studs can be skipped by running directly down the middle and double jumping past most of them. After that, it's smooth sailing. This first jump is pretty hard, and it took me a few tries to get it, but you can skip all these studs with Yoda. The rest of the level is straightforward, just don't make stupid mistakes like I did here and you'll be fine. By the way, I finished this level as Yoda with 420 studs. Coincidence?
Ran out of jewel pods I have. Fuel my nicotine addiction I must.
In this jungle area, it's actually possible to run through all these studs only touching 4 of them, possibly less. When you send this thing through the floor with Obi-Wan, make sure to wait a second before jumping in the hole so the studs from the object can despawn. The studs you get while falling aren't skippable though. This is a good time to mention that this LEGO Star Wars game is different from the others, in that there are unskippable studs placed at every lever and panel in the game. For me, this is an absolute bruh moment, as it easily totals to over 200 unskippable studs throughout the game. But now that I've mentioned it, I won't talk about it in the other levels, because that would get super repetitive. Actually, this level has one of the few levers you can pull without collecting studs. And now, I'm done talking about them. Storm over Ryloth is the first space mission, and there's not much to say about this one. You can jump over these studs when you enter through doors, but upon coming back, you will collect them anyway. Just stick to the middle of the paths and you'll be good to go. I spent 40 minutes on this level alone. Once you break the wall, use Waxer the rocket clone to blow up everything in this alleyway and everything in this clearing. Otherwise, when you walk the AT-AP through, it's gonna step on everything in the path and collect all those sweet studs. Hug this left wall to avoid all the studs in this hole, and make sure to use the force on this box instead of pushing it. This level is what made me change the rules a bit. Some of the levels like this one have RTS type gameplay, meaning you spawn and command troops and assets to progress. And of course, to buy these assets, you need some of these beautiful studs. So I decided that for these levels, any studs I collect in order to buy something won't count, but the studs I have left over at the end will. For this level, I had to spend 4,000 on clone barracks and 12,000 on an AT-AP to blow the door, but I accidentally collected 4,200 more than I needed. Coincidence? Also, remember when I said I wouldn't be counting the epilogue level as part of the playthrough? It's because that's an RTS level, and they are pretty simple to beat without studs, so I decided to just leave it out. I ended this level with 7,990 studs. It was pretty rough. One of the bombs you have to plant is behind this door, and by jumping on the control panel and diving over with Rex, you can skip the studs blocking the way. Unfortunately, I was sloppy right before that epic save when switching to Rex. Make sure you destroy all these boxes before activating this panel, as Rex may accidentally break them when the doors open. There are some unskippable studs you automatically collect in this animation as Ahsoka. Make sure to jump away from this build once it's assembled. I managed to accidentally get studs from it twice in a row. It is possible to hover around some of these floating studs as R2, but all the ones on the catwalk are unmissable. Frankly, there was a lot of room for improvement on this level, but I'm not sure exactly how to streamline it yet. Shadow of Malevolence is another easy space level. Once you activate the proton torpedoes on bottom, you don't need to do it on top, as you can just use the hyperspace ring to bring them with you. This will save you from having to get lever studs. Use R2 in this section to fly around studs. This part is insanely hard for avoiding studs. If you don't jump in the exact middle of these silver studs, you will end up collecting at least one of them, and the camera angles are not in R2-D2's favor. I collected 7,840 studs this level, one of my darkest hours. Make sure you kill these Magna Guards, because their rockets could destroy the objects around you and make you collect studs.
Napalm strike.
You can double jump over all of these studs. During this fight with Grievous, there's a part where he will jump on the ceiling and become a frostbite spider, making tons of studs rain down on you. Make sure you are all the way back so you don't get any of these. Destroy all these boxes before letting the monster out so they don't get in the way during the fight. Make sure to use the force on this box so you don't collect the studs on the path. Rookies is one of my favorite levels. When you slide down this rope, you can jump off halfway to avoid all the studs below you. Make sure when you are building that you aren't backing into studs by accident. Unfortunately, the rest of the level is filled with unavoidable studs, since you have to walk in this dynamite cardboard box that's straight out of a Looney Tunes cartoon. I finished with 12,890 studs. I have nothing left to live for. I volunteer as tribute.
Fortnite Chapter 2.
Napalm strike.
On this level, throw your lightsaber at these orbs so you are out of maximum stud bounce range. This fight is actually pretty tough because of all the random boxes lying around. Just make sure to only throw Magna Guards at him. Once you actually beat him in this segment, all the boxes will randomly explode, and you can't even see where the studs have fallen since you're running towards the camera, so just stay put until all the studs disappear. When shooting this yellow grape, make sure to run down immediately after it explodes to avoid all the studs falling down. When opening this door, you need to stand here to effectively dodge all the studs. The Battle of GEONOSIS is another RTS type level that is insanely simple. You don't need to buy any troops for this one since you already get AT-APs and the RX-200 Falcon class assault tank. All you need to do is destroy these 5 silos and you should be able to finish with 0 studs. Gungan General is also very easy, except that every time you ram one of the land speeders to hijack it, a silver stud falls out. Wait for it to disappear every time before hopping in. This can be really annoying since you already have a very short time to use the speeders, which is why you need patience. Lots of patience. In this level, when you're activating all the water sprayers, you can take this alternate route to skip all of these studs. It wasn't clear to me the first time, which is why I'm mentioning it. It will still make you collect 1 stud when you jump back in the gunship, however. Speaking of jumping in ships, jumping from the side into this one will make you collect the 2 gold studs next to it, but you're still skipping a bunch of others. In this level, you play as Yoda with no skin. Yet another RTS level, folks, and you spawn right on top of a blue stud. You can skip the other ones though by just pulling these hooks from a different angle. As for the RTS portion, you're gonna need 12,000 studs for all the necessary equipment, 2 cannons and 1 chicken walker. I managed to collect exactly 12,000 studs, so it is possible to finish with 0 studs once again. Weapons Factory is like the last level's older brother. It's nice because you already have the vehicles and troops you need, but you also have this bridge you have to cross like 3 times. Why is that a problem, you ask? Well, as you try to walk your epic AT-AP across, enemy droid battalions are also trying to cross to your side, and if you accidentally step on them, that's studs for you. It's like the AT-AP is Jack Black, and the droids are like the tiny men in Gulliver's Travels. After that whole portion, you need to infiltrate the base as Ahsoka. The one thing I'm gonna say here is don't swing your lightsaber at this wall. Why does this give you studs? Top 10 questions science could never answer. The final mission is a Resident Evil 7 remake. When you fall down this shaft, make sure you fall in the middle or you will collect the studs on the side. These purple balls are really annoying. You can't skip the top stud because you somehow need the 3rd ball to get onto this ledge. You can skip the bottom one, but when you slide down the pillar, you'll collect the studs anyway. Other than that, the other studs are easy to skip. Yo, what's up gamers? So I just realized I didn't record any of the footage that I needed for this last part. I tell you how many studs I ended up getting after the playthrough, but since it's different footage, it's not going to have the right stud count. The stud count I say is the one I ended with though, and if you don't believe me, then
Identify yourself!
I got back to the hub with a feeling of accomplishment, but that feeling turned to shaking and crying when I found out I had still collected 62,610 studs in my playthrough. I will say that there's a lot more streamlining and routing to be done to skip a few more studs here and there. However, some areas and levels are only reached like 20 minutes in, so it will take a lot more time and energy. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed, please consider liking the video and subscribing to the channel, as it is the best thing you could do to support me. For those wondering about a part 2 of my last video playing through the complete saga with only lightsabers, I will have that video out after a Jedi Fallen Order video. Again, thank you guys for watching, and until next time, I'm just gonna say, bruh.